all the time that you keep reading about, that if these go out, they will bring all the fish back. Absolutely no guarantee with that, because even if you look at the Elwha Dam, it's in the paper now, it's over on the west side, it's only 40 miles from the ocean. So that dam wasn't functioning anymore, so they took it out. The problem with that was it's easy to fix. So like those fish are back. Now you got the Klamath River in California. They're taking all those dams out. And if you read about the stuff about that now, they're just saying that they don't know. It might, maybe not in their lifetime will it ever recover, because they've got all this habitat and stuff that they've got to rebuild, that sort of thing. So anyway, these are the 4 dams that all have ladders on them, and we're going to be talking about some of this as we go along. You got a better figure, don't you? Okay. Now these are the spillways. I'm going to show you a little bit more about this. When these fish come down the river, and by the way, all the fish that are released from the hatcheries, the mitigation, acclimation ponds, come out of the rocks, whatever. By the time they get to the lower granite dam, 50% of them don't make it. There's all kinds of things that happen to them. It's only 50% of them don't make it. But these fish are traveling in the top 5 feet of the water column, and they travel backwards, by the way. They always got their nose into the stream coming down. And the spillway on these dams opens up from the bottom, 60 feet down. So when these fish come along, all of a sudden, if they're going to go over the dam, they've got to go down 60 feet. Well, now we put on this dam, on all the dams now that are down there, they have what they call RSWs, those are removable spillway weirs, and they're on this one. And this one opens up from the top. So the fish now can come over the top, and they're coming over, and their recovery rate is in the 90s and so forth. This gives you an idea about what happens here. These fish are coming up and they hit the dam just a little bit backwards from what's going on at Granite. They come down here, and I'm going to show you why they don't get into the turbines here very much. But from here, they're screened off, and they go up and they go through this bypass system. Now, if they're coming down the spillway, they go over the top, like I just mentioned, or they have to go underneath and come out the bottom. Anything that goes up here and goes through the dam system ends up into this, that takes you all the way to the fish facility, where you can either bypass them or otherwise. Now, they go in through the turbines. You know, we've heard that they're kind of like meat grinders. Well, they're really not. A lot of things have changed, and I'll show you why. Only about 3% of the fish that get to here get past this screen and come on through, and that's got like about a 97% rate as well. Okay, one of the mitigation issues that happened when the spawning areas were gone, you see Dvorak in the back up here, second highest straight line dam in the world, no fish ladder. And this is the state fish hatchery, and over here you can't see is the national fish hatchery at Orfino. So this is run by the Fish and Game Department, and so they put out all these fish, and they turn them loose in the river, and then they come on down and so forth. So hatcheries is one of the mitigation. This is what gas bubble disease is all about. Total dissolved gases. When you have water coming over there, it creates all this. And this happens in reality in streams around here. Any place you've got water coming over, you're going to have that happen. But it's a matter of concentration, and it's a matter of time. And so in regular stream situations, you have that dissipate. When you go over a dam that goes so far down and it creates so much, you end up with gas bubble disease in the eye, and then these fish that are being spilled. 110% total nitrogen gas at the hatcheries is a level that they always want to stay underneath because it's toxic. Right now, because of government decree, they're dropping fish at 125%. It's just lethal, and you can't live in that. We have a way to do that, take care of that on the barge we talked about. These are what the turbines look like, and they've changed this whole complex underneath here with these fins, and they're 4 or 5% more efficient, putting out more energy with less turbine turning, and then of course they're more friendly to the fish. So these are the screens that are at the point of contact here. And some fish will finally get through here and come on out over the bottom of the turbine, but most of them get screened off and go up there, go into a channel, and end up going over to the fish facility. So The screen is sending them away from that, so they're really not getting into the turbines like you've heard so much about. It's a bypass system. All right, now, transportation. As far as transportation goes, what do we do transport, either by barge and or truck? Nothing is coming out of the Columbia River system. There's no pickup, there's no collection, there's no nothing. Lord granted is where the first ones were collected. I'll show you some of those in a second here, how they collect them. Leave Granite, go to Goose, pick up some more. Ice Harbor doesn't have anything, but War Monumental does, so you picked up there again. And from there, their transportation then is all the way down to Bonneville, and they dock into what we call the estuary. It's an area between saltwater and freshwater. And there's a very unique biological thing that takes place where the swim bladder and the liver actually switches places within the body of the fish, allows them to go to the ocean and handle the salt water. When they return, that flip-flop takes place again as the adults come back. So, we barge from here to there. Now, we don't do McNary anymore because crossing over in front of the spillway is too great. You can't get across with the barges. This is too much. So they truck everything. And when these numbers get down so low that we don't put them in the barges anymore, then we truck them at that point as well. So this is the collection of the bypass system. Nothing is coming from up in this part. It's all coming out of the Snake River. If these 4 dams were taken out, there'd be no way to collect. It's the only place you can do it. And that's not the best thing. Now, fish have been moved around for a lot of years different ways. This is how they used to get them up on high mountain lakes. They put them on horses and they flew them out of airplanes and dropped them. Kids would go into a fair and won one of the goldfish and took it home in a bag. So transportation of fish is not something that's terribly new, but on the scale that we have now, it's really new. Right, when this started, these 2 barges here, whoops, I gotta have a backup. All right, these are what we call 2000 series barges, and they were used during World War II to take fresh water to the troops over in the Pacific. That's what they were used for. And then they came here when this concept started about transportation. They altered these 2 barges, and then it showed promise. So then a couple of years later, they brought in these smaller barges over here. These are the 4000 series barges, and they've got some changes on them. You see all these high-rise things here? These are aerators or degassers. The water comes up in the bottom of these in a seed chest, and there's pumps and motors, pumps the water up over the top of these, and inside of them are like a bunch of wiffle balls. And it creates oxygen, but what it really does, it takes anywhere from 125 to 131% total dissolved gas down to about 103. So these fish are in really good conditions all the way down while they're in these barges. So 4000 series barges, and then they brought in 2 of the 8000 series barges, and then a couple of years later they added another couple thousand of the 8000s. These barges right here, based on pounds of fish per gallon of water, can haul around 250,000 fish, one of these barges. You get up to about 500,000 fish, 700,000 fish here on the 4000s, and these fish are over 700,000 in each one. So when we go down, we're pushing 2, lots of times pushing 8 and a 2,000, and we got well over a million fish going down. And they're in a totally protected environment. No predators, no time delays, no delayed mortality, no gas problems, no temperature problems. It's a 2-day trip from the time we load them until we dump them off in the estuary down below Caldwell. This is a remarkable program. It's also telling you that the biologists and the folks that are running this thing have had a big interest in making sure these salmon and fish are recovered properly. This is another interesting thing that took place. I left there in 2015, and none of this was there. They were just, when they came out of the dam, there was a big pipe that came through and lots of water, and they had water descaling places there and stuff, and all that came down. It was pretty rough on the fish, and so they built this very elaborate system where they come in this upper trough now, and then they're in this configuration as they're coming into the separator where they're measured and gauged and weighed, and determine which barge and how they're gonna go in. And by doing that, they eliminated the descaling, the fish coming down are so much more better condition now than they ever were. And this is another indication of what's going on with what the people are doing at the dams to make it. This thing is well known around the world now, and people are coming here to evaluate what's going on. Here's another picture of those aerator degasser systems. This is where that system was coming around here, bringing the fish through the straw. And there's dewatering systems there. Says all this big water coming down is still too much, and so it goes through these areas where the water gets dumped back out into the ocean. And here's where the separator, all that takes place in there, and then they get loaded into the barges, into the holds. Holds are called tanks. Now here's a picture of a 8,000 series barge. These pumps are up in here in this sea chest. All these are pushed by tug companies. Tug companies bid on this every year to get the challenges. You've got Shaver and Tidewater and SD&S. Bernard used to do that with us, but they have smaller horsepower barge tugs, and so they can't handle the big water coming back up through Bonneville. So I remember one night we released the fish, and I went into the hole to do my cleaning. I came up 3 hours later, and we hadn't gone 100 yards. The push was coming so great coming out of Bonneville. And they had to get another tug up from Portland to get us all the way up through there, so it's pretty cool. But anyway, see this water coming out here? Well, the water goes through these things, go in where the fish is, and it's dumped back in, so they're acclimating in this water all the way down. And they got all those great things going on. This is what they look like inside in the hold. They're alive and well and just happy as the dickens down in there. And they swim around the whole time. And we monitor oxygen, we monitor temperature. There's a P4 system, it's just the title of it, but it's an electronic system that's in every one of these holds. And if the water level gets too warm, or the oxygen level drops down, alarms go off. And then you know what you can do. You start up other motors and keep things going. So they're pretty happy in it. This kind of correlates with what Charlie was talking about with what was happening. Okay. I thought maybe we had a fire.
No.
Get on a barge. Okay, so anyway, you can see the black line is collection and the red line is transportation. This is happening in 2000. This is when we were serious about this stuff. And that's when we got all those fish back. And then it started dropping off as collection happens when you have bad fish years, El Niños and La Niñas and those sort of things. And so you get some variation as you go along. And all of a sudden we get over here, we have maximum spill and no barging. It's taken 4% of the barging took place that year in 21. And the results of that coming back now are absolutely scary. Another indication of what happens when you do that. And these are our numbers. These are numbers that are kept by the people that put this all together. I'm talking about predators. This is a walleye. These are salmon smolts laying up inside that walleye. Voracious feeding fish. So we have walleye, and we have bass, and we have catfish, and another predator, fish. Pike minnows, yeah. And those are all regulated by somebody. Pike minnow is the only native fish that we have now. The others are all, introduced fish, invasive, and so they're run by state game departments and stuff. And so you can only catch so many instead of putting a bounty on them and getting rid of them. But they're voracious feeders. The little hatchery at Oxbow, when they dump those smolts out down there, smolts are these fish that come out of the fry, and they're smolted and they're starting their way down. Over 50% of them are gone in the first 300 miles. They don't even make it that far. Full of bats. That's part of the work we did when I was with USGS. Avian predation is horrendous. I don't know what you have up here in the way of pelicans, but they're tremendous. They're everywhere. They're all over Dvorak. They're all over everywhere. Here's an example about the voraciousness and how they feed. An adult pelican will eat 7.5 pounds of fish a day. 7.5 pounds, what's that mean? Well, what it really means is when you have smolts that are little bitty guys. You can have as many as 25 or 30 smolts in a pound. And if you're eating 7.5 times that, count the numbers, you know, that's well over 100 fish per one pelican. Okay, and they're part of, and these are cormorants, and they're a big problem too, because they stay around all winter now, and they dive to 40 feet to feed if they have to. And they feed on everything, but boy, when this candy machine comes down, these turns, they had an island down on the bottom of the Bonneville area down there on the Columbia, and they had to move them off the island. They were picking off so darn many of them. So all these predators are part of the problem. This is a huge problem. Sea lions have been protected. This is kind of what's going on. Most of these sea lions have been tattooed so they keep an eye on them. And this is what's happened to the area down there. And at least 40 or 50% of the salmon and steelhead returning are consumed by feeding sea lions. In Oregon right now, Oregon Fish and Wildlife has started trapping some of these because their lethal actions aren't being allowed, I guess. They're putting them in a truck and taking them clear back up the river and into Oregon someplace and releasing them, and then the sea lions are beating them back before they get back with the truck. And they're right back there getting to it. And they've been laying up inside the fish ladders. They know where the thing is. All right, so during the 10-year period from 2010 to 21, there are more than 40 million Chinook, more than 22 million steelhead, more than 90,000 sockeye and kokanee, totaling more than 64 million healthy fish that be transported by barge to the estuary below the Bonneville Dam. That's a lot of fish being turned out. And we need to give it a chance to work. Barge more, spill less, and control some predators. Sounds like a simple thing, but you know, when you talk about predators, a fox in the hen house is not very good for keeping any chickens around. So anyway, the smallest act, if it did anything, it's better than some of the greatest intentions. Okay, so we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Grassroots, I think we got about 18 members, and there's 11 of us. 9 board members and 2 people who are our advisors. Our webpage is cfpfd.org. I recommend that you take a look at that. And maybe for a class officer situation, there's 5 presentations there. Maybe 2 or 3 you could take one of the presentations and study it in more detail. Because there's a lot of good stuff that we had to eliminate in order to do this. But anyway, we want to thank you again for allowing us to present the reasons we believe that fish and dams can coexist. We think it's a tremendous opportunity, and in our experiences, and mine especially with the barging, I mean, it's reality for me. I mean, I've been there, done that. And so, anyway, thank you again. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
I'm curious, why was the barging decreased?
Pardon?
Why did they decrease the amount of barging?
Why did they decrease it?
Yeah.
Court ordered. Environmentalists got a hold of a judge, and they said, if we spill more, we can get them down there faster, without any scientific knowledge or anything else. And so that was 120%, and next year he doubled down and went to 125%. And so, yes, sir.
If you guys took out the dams, would it make their rate to the ocean faster? Or?
Well, those are some unknown things. I guarantee if we took out those 4 dams, there'd be real small chance of ever having any fish again. Because unless you can collect them and get them down there in a barge safely, we already know that 40 or 50% never make it. And if you're going in 125% at every dam, you kill more fish. And so, but the reason they did that was because they thought if they pushed them faster. But then what happened this year, they lowered the water level so they could push. They thought it would accelerate them down, and the water levels got really low, and then that cyanoalgae bloom came up, and that was nasty. That wasn't good, and that was all the way down the river. But to answer your question directly, I don't think so, because there's too much fluctuation. At least with a dam there, you can control the water coming down, temperature-wise, flow-wise, that sort of thing. And the dams just have an awful lot to offer. And I know it's real easy to say because of what happened at Elwha and what's going on with California and the climate. Yeah, just take the dams out, it'll recover. Well, it may or may not, we don't know. You know, but we do know if we do certain things, put the puzzle pieces together. Get more releases out of the fish hatcheries, get better ocean wash conditions, get rid of bycatch. Bycatch is fish that get caught in commercial fisheries in the ocean that they're not targeting. For example, Japan is targeting marlin, and they end up with a whole net full of salmon and steelhead. That's bycatch. They're dead, they're just getting loose. And that's going on all the time because we have observers who actually work on these boats, and they watch this and they keep track of that stuff. And sometimes it's 50% of their catch. It's bycatch. And so all of these pieces got to kind of come together to make it happen. Barging isn't the panacea. It's not the silver bullet, but it's certainly one thing. If we do more of it and spill less, you know, we can make a big difference. Those charts and stuff don't make it. They tell you the whole story. It's pretty cool. So anyway, more questions?
And I would ask you to just remember that graph. We add dams with fish ladders, it doesn't affect the return of the fish. So the key is not those dams. If you want to make a big difference, we could there's some dams we could target that would eventually recover spawning sites. But you know, you take them out, it's going to take 50 years probably before the environment can go. I don't know what prognosis on that would be, but those are the dams that are impeding the reproduction of the salmon, not the 4 lower Snake River dams or the other 4 from the confluence of the Snake and the Columbia. You got McNary and the Dalles and Bonneville, and what's the other one? I can't remember.
Ice Harbor?
Ice Harbor?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, there's 4 dams on the main stem Columbia and 4 up here. Those dams with fish ladders aren't reducing the return of the fish. The scientists, this is just Charlie Pottinger's opinion, the so-called scientists, biologists that work on this, they're wonderful people, they know what they're doing, but they don't focus on the thing that counts. What counts, at least for Charlie Pottinger, is how many fish actually come back. And the only way we can get more fish coming back is to either reduce predators, curtail fishing in the lower Columbia to some extent. Because most of the fish that come up that river, the spring chinook and the steelhead, they're Snake River, Salmon River bound fish. But the 4 lower Snake River dams, you take them out, it won't increase habitat one bit. Because every stream on the Snake River between Lewiston and the Columbia is still available for spawning. The Toucannon is the main one, and maybe the the one that has the big falls on it. I can't remember. Palouse. Those are the 2 biggest rivers in that whole 200-mile stretch. So anyway, the dams with fish ladders aren't the problem. That's my statement.
One thing more, just to add, there's been some controversy about DNA between hatchery fish and wild fish. And Oregon State just finished up a big study about that. And you know anything about livestock and hybrid vigor? You know, you mix Herefords and Angus and you get white mollies, okay? You get more hybrid vigor when you mix 2 together. That's kind of happening with the hatchery fish, which are stronger, tougher fish because they've been fed better than the wild fish sometimes. But the DNA is exactly the same. You can do whatever you want to them, but they're all born with a fin. You know, you got to clip the fin when you catch them. If they clip it, you can keep them. But all of them, it doesn't matter what's going on with them, whether they're hatched or raised or anything, they all have a fin when they're born. So that's been studied and gone on. But this total dissolved gas thing has been going on for, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 years they've been studying it. Some biologists have been studying it all their lives. And it's real. And now they have sensors and stuff on every dam, on every spillway and everything, and they can count and they can tell everything that's going on now. So it's a big deal. And the operators of the dams and the biologists of the dams, if they're allowed to do their job, they can do a tremendous job and get it done. So Anyway, more questions?
Why are they not talking about removing the four up